Welcome to Silent Witness. We delve into the shadows, exploring mysteries that linger, cases that chill the bone, and questions that demand answers. Tonight we step into the rugged landscape of the Santa Monica Mountains, into a story that begins with erratic behavior at a high-end restaurant and ends with a baffling disappearance, a grim discovery, and years of unanswered questions. It's a case tangled in issues of mental health, law enforcement protocols, and the terrifying vulnerability of being alone, in the dark, without help. This is the story of Mitrice Richardson. Mitrice Lavon Richardson. Remember her name. In 2009, she was 24 years old, vibrant, intelligent, a recent graduate from Cal State Fullerton with a degree in psychology. She'd competed in pageants, worked as an executive assistant. She was, by all accounts, a young woman with her future stretching before her. But on September 16, 2009, something was wrong, terribly wrong. The evening begins in Malibu, a place synonymous with sun-drenched beaches and celebrity estates. Mitrice drives her '98 Honda Civic nearly 50 miles from her South Los Angeles area home to Jeffrey's, an upscale restaurant perched above the Pacific Coast Highway. She's alone. What draws her there, so far from home, remains unclear. Her behavior at Jeffrey's immediately raises red flags. Patrons and staff describe her as acting bizarrely. She reportedly moves from table to table, speaking strangely, making comments about the recent death of Michael Jackson, talking about astrology, maybe even claiming to be from Mars. It's behavior that makes people uncomfortable, concerned. She orders a steak dinner and an ocean breeze cocktail. The bill comes to $89, and Mitrice can't pay. She has no cash, no cards. The restaurant staff, faced with an unpaid bill and a guest exhibiting deeply concerning behavior, calls the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The 911 call captures their worry. They report she's refusing to pay, sounding crazy, possibly on drugs, and they request deputies come pick her up. The manager later stated he wasn't just concerned about the bill, he felt she was unfit to drive. Deputies from the Malibu, Lost Hills Sheriff Station arrive. They speak with Mitrice, they administer a field sobriety test and, according to their reports, determine she isn't intoxicated by alcohol or drugs. A consensual search of her impounded Honda Civic reveals less than an ounce of marijuana, some empty prescription bottles and alcohol. But crucially, no wallet, no phone, no money. Her purse, phone, and keys are locked inside her car, which is now set to be towed. Unable to pay, and with a small amount of marijuana found, the deputies arrest Mitrice Richardson. The charges: suspicion of defrauding an innkeeper and misdemeanor marijuana possession. Around 10 p.m., she's placed in the back of a patrol car and driven away from the glittering lights of Malibu towards the Lost Hills Sheriff Station, located in a more remote area inland, in Agora Hills near Calabasas. As Mitrice is being processed at the station, her mother, Lavon Sutton, gets involved. She had spoken with Mitrice earlier that day and noted her daughter sounded slightly off, perhaps sleep-deprived after staying up for several nights working on a project. Now, learning of the arrest, Lavon calls the Lost Hills station. She's worried. She explains her concerns about her daughter's mental state, emphasizing that Mitrice doesn't know the area, has no ride, and no resources. Lavon would later state, vehemently, that she was assured by station personnel that Mitrice would be held overnight, or at least until daylight, and that she could arrange to pick her up in the morning. She pleads with them not to release her daughter alone into the unfamiliar darkness. But that's not what happened. Inside the station, Mitrice is booked. Her fingerprints and photograph are taken. Records show she has no outstanding warrants. She signs a promise to appear in court for the charges. And then, the decision is made to release her, just after midnight, specifically at 12:28 a.m. on September 17, 2009. Mitrice Richardson, 24 years old, is released from the Lost Hills Sheriff Station. Let's be absolutely clear about the circumstances. She has no cell phone. She has no wallet or money. She has no car keys. Her car is in an impound lot miles away. She is in an area she doesn't know, described as semi-rural and dark, far from public transport hubs, especially at that hour. Her mother had explicitly warned the station about her vulnerability and mental state. The sheriff's department's official stance? They stated Mitrice showed no signs of severe mental illness or intoxication that legally mandated a psychiatric hold. They claimed she was offered the chance to wait in the station lobby until morning, but she declined, saying she was going to meet friends, a statement that appears to have had no basis in reality. She was an adult, they argued, and they had no legal grounds to hold her longer on those minor charges. So, Mitrice Richardson walks out of the brightly lit station, into the velvet darkness of the Santa Monica foothills, alone. What happens in those next few hours is shrouded in mystery. She vanishes. The alarm isn't truly sounded until later that morning when Laddie Sutton calls the station, expecting to arrange pickup, only to be told her daughter was released hours earlier. Panic sets in. Then, a potential sighting surfaces. Around 6:30 a.m., roughly 6 hours after her release, a man named Bill Smith, a retired KTLA news anchor living in the secluded community of Monte Nido, about 6 miles south of the sheriff's station, deep in the winding canyon roads, calls 911. He reports a slender black woman, matching Mitrice's description, resting in his backyard. He asks her if she's okay. She reportedly says she's just resting. He calls the authorities, but by the time deputies arrive, she's gone. Was this Mitrice? It seems highly likely. If so, she had traveled miles on foot, through dark, unfamiliar, hilly terrain. Where was she going? What state of mind was she truly in? The search begins, but it's complicated. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. LAPD takes the lead on the missing person case because Mitrice lived in Los Angeles, while ASD assists, focusing on the area where she was last seen and released. There are large-scale searches involving hundreds of volunteers, K-9 units, helicopters, even drones. They scour the rugged canyons, the creeks, the trails around Malibu Creek State Park, Monte Nido, and the area near the Lost Hills station. Friends and family plaster missing posters. Mitrice's father, Michael Richardson, and her mother, Latisse Sutton, though separated, worked tirelessly, desperate for answers. They question the sheriff's department's initial response, the release protocols, everything. During the search, disturbing discoveries are made, not of Mitrice, but of things like freshly painted racist and sexist graffiti in a drainage culvert within the search area, paint cans left behind. Hope dwindles, leads dry up. Mitrice Richardson, the bright young graduate, seems to have vanished into the unforgiving landscape. 11 agonizing months pass. Then, on August 9, 2010, the search comes to a horrific end. State Park Rangers, conducting a raid on an illegal marijuana grow site deep within Dark Canyon, a remote, difficult-to-access tributary of Malibu Canyon, not far from the Monte Nido sighting, stumble upon human remains. They are scattered, skeletonized, partially mummified by the elements, and identified through dental records as Mitrice Richardson. Her body is found naked. There are differing accounts about the proximity of clothing items. Some reports mention jeans and a bra found nearby. Others suggest no clothing was immediately associated with the main skeletal remains. The location is incredibly remote, miles from any main road, in terrain hikers typically avoid. How did she get there? The discovery itself sparks immediate controversy. Deputies from the LASD Homicide Bureau arrive on scene, against the standard protocol and, according to the coroner's office, against their explicit instructions for that scene. Deputies make the decision to airlift the remains out of the canyon before the coroner's investigators can fully process the location. A county helicopter transports the skull and other bones back towards a command post. The sheriff's department later claimed there was a miscommunication, or that they received initial verbal permission from a coroner's watch commander to move some bones due to concerns about approaching darkness and the difficult terrain compromising the scene overnight. The coroner's office vehemently disputed authorizing the removal of the entire skeleton before their arrival and examination of the site context. An official investigation by the county's Office of Independent Review later described this as a significant communication gap, finding no deliberate cover-up, but acknowledging the deviation from standard procedure fueled public suspicion and questions. Why the rush? Did this premature removal compromise potential evidence about how Mitrice died or how her body came to be in that location? The autopsy provides few answers. The Los Angeles County coroner rules the cause and manner of death as undetermined. Due to the advanced decomposition and skeletonization, the pathologist finds no clear evidence of foul play, no bullet holes, no knife marks, no obvious signs of premortem trauma. But crucially, they cannot rule out foul play either. Natural causes couldn't be confirmed. Accidental death from exposure couldn't be confirmed. Homicide couldn't be confirmed. Suicide couldn't be confirmed. It remains, officially, a mystery. Further complicating matters, Mitrice's family, deeply distrustful of the official investigation, has her body exhumed for a second private autopsy in 2011. The findings of that examination haven't been widely publicized or definitively changed the official narrative, but it underscores the family's desperate search for clarity. Where does that leave us? We have a young woman, potentially experiencing a mental health crisis. Evidence later found in her journal suggested possible bipolar disorder and extreme sleep deprivation, arrested for minor offenses. Released in the dead of night into a dangerous situation without any means of caring for herself despite her mother's warnings. She disappears, only to be found as skeletal remains in a remote canyon 11 months later, with no clear cause of death. The questions are legion and deeply unsettling. Why was the decision made to release Mitrice at 12:28 a.m. under those specific, vulnerable circumstances? Did the deputies fully appreciate or inquire about her mental state? Did the sheriff's department follow its own policies regarding release, assessment, and care for potentially vulnerable individuals? The OIR report suggested the deputies' actions were reasonable based on the information available at the time, but does that standard hold up under ethical scrutiny? What happened to Mitrice after the Monte Nido sighting around 6:30 a.m.? How did she travel several more miles into the even more remote dark canyon? Did she succumb to the elements due to disorientation and lack of resources? Did she suffer an accident in the treacherous terrain? Or did she encounter someone else in those canyons? Was there foul play involved, despite the lack of definitive forensic evidence on the recovered remains? The discovery site's connection to an illegal marijuana grow adds another layer of potential danger and unknown actors in the area. Why were her remains found naked? Does this indicate something specific, or could it be attributed to animal activity and environmental exposure over 11 months? Did the controversial handling of her remains by LASD potentially obscure crucial evidence? The family sued Los Angeles County, alleging negligence led to Mitrice's death. The county settled the lawsuits in 2011 for approximately $900,000 without admitting wrongdoing. While the settlement provided some financial acknowledgement, it offered no real answers or accountability in the eyes of her loved ones. The California Attorney General's office reviewed the LASD's handling of the case. After initially finding no grounds, they opened a criminal investigation in 2016. However, in 2017, they concluded there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against any deputies involved. The sheriff's department did implement policy changes in the wake of Mitrice's case. They now emphasize returning personal property upon release, allowing individuals to remain in the station lobby until daylight, and have increased training for deputies on interacting with individuals potentially suffering from mental illness. Small changes, born from immense tragedy. But for Mitrice Richardson and for her family, the story remains unfinished. Her death is officially undetermined. The case, while likely cold, remains technically open. A reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction, currently $20,000 offered by LA County, still stands, a testament to the lingering uncertainty. Mitrice Richardson walked out of a sheriff's station into the darkness and never truly came back. Was it a series of tragic systemic failures, a devastating accident in the wilderness, or something more sinister? The Santa Monica Mountains hold their secrets close, and nearly 15 years later we are still asking, What happened to Mitrice? If you have any information regarding the disappearance and death of Mitrice Richardson, please contact the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau or the Los Angeles Police Department. Even the smallest detail could be the key. Join us next time on Silent Witness as we explore another case lost in the shadows. Until then, stay safe and keep questioning.
The air hangs heavy, cold and thin, muffled steps as sins begin. The clocks tick slow, the room holds still, a chilling shiver, a creeping thrill. Darkness lingers, truth stays shy, under the veil where secrets lie. A hollow breath, a creaking